7:10 at KPEL. Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News. It's Monday, July 11th. You know what? It just hit me. I'm pretty sure I said June 11th this morning. July 11th. Let's just get into the right month, Rob.
It's the heat.
You know when you start to get in, as a kid, when you start to get into July, you're like, no, don't come. Closer and closer to August in school.
Okay, like school starts, somebody told me like around August 11th or something.
That is correct.
We have
So
a
it's
full
a
list.
month.
Yeah, all the school districts on our website, kpel965.com, all the start dates. Enjoy your no school zones right now while you're driving to work.
Yeah, because you got 4 weeks, and that's all you got.
Look, can I suggest that we not enjoy them and that we actually prepare for them?
There you go. Okay, see, this is why we got to have Kenneth in here, because I need you sitting behind me every day.
Every day.
Rob,
Look.
don't go there. What you need to say is, joining us in the studio, Kenneth Boudreaux, Lafayette City-Parish Councilman. Lots going on in our area.
Yes.
You had a post we talked a little bit earlier about. There was that unfortunate, seemingly senseless shooting near the MLK Center. I guess it was last week. We've already gotten kind of that far.
Yeah.
Where are we now with that? And obviously, it sort of plays into the larger story that we've kind of had nationwide. Crime, black-on-black crime, officer-involved crime involving black individuals. I mean, I just feel like eventually someone's going to sit back and say, I can't believe we were having this conversation. You know, I mean, just like many people have about the civil rights movement in the 60s. I can't believe the water fountain thing was an issue. You know, I mean, it just seems so crazy now.
Well, and you're right. It's a crazy situation. It's one that's not easily understood. And that's why I appreciate this opportunity to come and talk. And because the only way we work through these things is when people are at least willing to sit down and have the real candid conversation and not just the blogging or not just the opinion type conversation, or where things can be challenged. And if we could maintain a level of respect for each other, we find that we gain greater ground. As you indicated, a very senseless murder. Black on black crime is a real issue. Black on black violence is a real issue, and that is very well acknowledged. Within the black community in particular and outside of that community, I think sometimes people feel that because of the attention and the outrage and the stepping up that you see when a police officer shoots an African-American person, that people immediately want to say, well, blacks are killing each other. I don't see the outrage there. That's not true. There is plenty of outrage. There is plenty of activity taking place. There are plenty of things that happens to try to correct those situations, but they're separate. Mm-hmm. They're different, and they must be viewed different and even talked about separately and differently. So, you know, although they somewhat, it's gun violence. Now that's a common denominator that people have trouble talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's the only common denominator, is that it's the guns that are being used. But when a black kills another black, that isn't necessarily unusual. That has a lot to do with geographics.
I was going to say
right.
Yeah.
We're within close proximity. I could tell you that the data shows that whites kill whites at an alarming rate as well. Mm-hmm. So that's, you know, it just is what it is. Just like, you know, husband kill wives because they're married. Domestic. Right.
You know, one person in a relationship killing another person.
That is correct.
Look at how many women have been murdered over the last 20 years in Louisiana, and I think we still lead the nation.
I think we do. You know? I think we do. So that's not unusual. Mm-hmm. Now, when you shift that over to the outrage that is shown by the black community when a white officer kills a black, that's a whole different subject matter. Yeah. Okay. And then it's compared.
So explain why it is though, Kenneth, because, you know, so we hear those arguments and we hear that discussion, but give us your perspective on why it's different. People.
Well, the reason it's different is because time and time again, you see when officers approach African Americans or black people that it ends in gunfire or death. And when they approach white people, they're able to de-escalate the situation. And over, and if you follow all of the things and the coverage that has been around these shootings, people have put out hundreds of examples where whether a white male was waving an axe or whether he was walking through the park or public space with a gun in hand, exposed and raised, that person never gets shot. But the idea that whether an African American has a gun in their pocket or whether they don't have a gun at all, they end up dead. So that is the issue, that we don't mind enforcement of the laws. We don't mind people, because within the African American community, there's a significant desire to live safely, live comfortably. You know, we call the police for help as well. It's just that we don't want to see our kind, if you would, dying at the result of the police coming out to a scene.
Okay, and then the next argument from people will be, this will be the next argument, is that he was resisting.
You know, resisting is an interpretation thing, and I am concerned about that. And that's why I have said, and this is the conversation that I'm talking about now. This is about laws. This is about policy. This is about training. Because what is viewed as resisting and what is justifiable force is the issue that we need to be addressing here. The reason a lot of these things have ended up and resulted in the way that they have is because the policies and the laws that are in place are supporting that type of activity. That's what we have to address. We have to get the diversity training that many people have been crying for and begging for over the years, number one. And we have to relook at how police officers view what is resisting. What is life being threatened? What is life in danger? And what is that interpretation? So when you said that someone say he will be resisting on the Baton Rouge issue, of course, that's still the issue of the right hand. You know, and I think that's going to have much weight as this things plays out, is that where was the right hand? What was the ability of the right hand? But at the end of the day, if a person is resisting against two, if one is against two in America, we call that unfair.
Why, but people are not going to. A lot of people are not going to see it that way.
Oh, absolutely not. People see things through their own experience and their own eyes, Bernice. And that is the ultimate issue with this, is that people see what they want to see. People see based on what they experience through their own eyes. And that's why it's so important to have the dialogue, is that white America is going to have to listen to black America, whether you agree or not, at least to get the understanding. Black America has to continue to listen to white America to have an understanding. So I totally agree with you. Now, I don't anticipate many people agreeing with that position. I don't anticipate many people understanding that position, because no one has ever taken the time to become open to another thought.
Well, and that's what we were talking about this morning, the idea that when it comes to race, you know, I know my heart. I know myself and I know my heart.
Absolutely.
So when people talk about the issue with race, it feels different for me, because I really do love everybody.
Right. And you know what? And you and I the same way.
Right.
And you know, and that's the thing, is that you look, the immediate comparison becomes yourself.
Right.
And you say, how could that not be? I'm going to make you all laugh. I drove up and I said, how many people would imagine that there's an African American lawn service doing the work here?
Right.
Just based on, you know, this is conservative radio and you know what? It's about business. It's about quality of service. It's about opportunity. Can you get the job done?
Right.
And unfortunately, America isn't there yet. You know, and like we said last time I was here, Kenneth Boudreaux racial issues is not nearly as great as someone who is unemployed or someone who's impoverished or someone who's homeless, because we treat people based on levels. We set them in place. So when they see Kenneth Boudreaux, they may say, oh, that's a city councilman. So some people can be more acceptable and open to me. But when you see the homeless person or the unemployed person, or maybe the person who didn't get a chance to get their hair cut on that day, or maybe they're not groomed as well, or not eating at certain places and begging rather than giving, you know, we view those people differently. So it actually goes beyond race. Okay. But you're absolutely correct. It is challenging for people like us in this room who gets it, who says, look, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. If you're willing to work within certain lines, if you're willing to be cooperative and work with me and be pleasant, I want to be pleasant back to you. I want to love you. You know, God says love all people. And he also says, in the Bible also says, thou shalt not kill. He didn't say thou shalt not kill blacks. Thou shalt not kill whites. Thou shalt not kill men who wear blue uniforms. God says thou shalt not kill. So anytime a killing takes place, whether it's at the hands of a police officer in the act of duty, or whether it's senseless between two people of the same race and the same gender in the same communities trying to come out of the same conditions, God said thou shalt not kill.
So I guess my question would be, this is such a huge issue. Some people would view it as like an intangible thing, because all we want is this great society, which I think is, I think we could have it.
It's
and
doable.
I think the young people can make
doable.
it happen. In, 2016, July 2016, do we just need to promote an understanding? I mean, if you are, a white officer, do you just need to spend some time, in those neighborhoods so you realize that everybody's not bad that drives off of this certain street?
That's part of
it. Okay, I was going to say it's part of it.
But it's not the.
Now you're already making an assumption, though, that white officer doesn't
absolutely, yes.
understand part of it.
Let me share the bad news.
Yeah.
This isn't just white officers. Okay? What I tell you, something that is more tangible and something that is more relevant is where our officers come from. I had a conversation with a retired individual from law enforcement here in Lafayette just 2 days ago as I've been working on solutions. Yeah. One of the things that is different is that police officers used to police neighborhoods that they grew up in, that they came from. They had a built-in relationship. Yep. They knew. I mean, we had officers, if you look at Lafayette and you look at the African-American community, I knew police officers who lived in Macomb, who lived in Vise, Fightonville, Truman. And when they went on a call there, and of course we didn't have 300 officers back then. The same guy went to a lot of places. When they went on a call, it wasn't look that policeman coming or look that officer coming. It was, that's God coming. That's Francis coming or that's Warren coming. And they knew your parents. So when they handled you, it wasn't personal. It was a relationship because y'all probably went to church together and y'all shopped at the same stores together. Well, now officers are generated in a lot of instances by the universities and college. They come to school from another place, another town. They don't have the community relationships. They don't have the neighborhood relationships. So even more than putting white officers in black situations or black officers in white situations is about creating relationships. That's why it goes to training. Exactly. So number one, we got to do things like visit barbershops. We got to get to church service while on patrol. And I've been critical of that. I've asked the former chief. I've asked this chief. I don't like cars sitting underneath oak trees at high schools where nothing is going on a Tuesday morning. Get in the neighborhoods where people are. On Sundays, if you're going to 10-8 or take a break somewhere, take it in the back pew of the Methodist church or the Catholic church or the Baptist church. Okay. On Saturdays, I want to incentivize where walk into a barbershop and sit down for no reason at all. You might get a free haircut out the deal, but just go talk to the men and women in the barbershop and create a real relationship as opposed to waiting to try to create relationships after the fact. I heard a chief from somewhere, and I apologize. It might have been the Los Angeles situation where Snoop Dogg and a few individuals went visit with the chief and others. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, if we wait to do these things after an incident happened, they never work. It never ever gets to where it needs to be.
Emotional right now.
It's too many emotions. It's no understanding. It's no compromise. I want what I want. You want what you want. We have to get out in front of these things. We have to. I've always said it. And if y'all follow me, so y'all probably have read it. Yep. We got to prevent the next one from happening. I'm not discouraging or minimizing what has happened. We got to, that's going to take some dealing as well. But going forward, we got to prevent the next one from happening because evidently we come back to the same spot after each one of these.
Yeah. So instead, be proactive. We do have to take a break.
Let's get a quick break. We'll be back.
And I'll think about this during the break, and then we'll come back and ask you, is it different? Can I ask you how old you are now?
I'm 48.
Okay, 48. So we're very close in age. I'll be 44 this year.
Okay.
How different is it today with race relations versus when we were in high school? How different is it today from the 80s?
Okay. It is 7:20 KPEL. Welcome back. We're still joined by Kenneth Boudreaux, Lafayette City-Parish councilman. We go several years back when we worked in the same building. You did a radio show. Yeah. Young people, okay? Yes. And young people has really been your, driving force. It has been... and maybe you have other ones, but I'm sorry. For helping young people. Sorry, Kenneth.
That's all right. That's all right.
You were having conversations about this sort of thing, 9 and 10 years ago whenever you had the show. Do you still do the show?
I still do the show. So I still do that program.
You can plug it. What's the show?
Q95.5, Holla Back.
Okay, Holla Back.
All right, thank you.
You've been talking about these issues. Since then, when they weren't covered on the national news every single night, and you would bring these people in, and these are young people who are getting ready to go out into the world, and sometimes they had views that even sometimes I'd listen, and you were almost shocked, like, I can't believe that's how you view the world.
Well, guess what? You know what was the key to that is exactly what you just said. Our philosophy was you may not agree with what we're saying, but at least you know what we're thinking. No one wants to take the time to hear what someone else is thinking.
And that's what I was going to ask you about when we were in high school. Okay, because what year did you graduate? 84?
86.
Okay, so you were 86. I was 90.
90.
In a lot of ways, I think things were better then. But was it because we were younger? Are they better now? And did we stop listening to each other?
We have never started listening to each other, number one.
Okay.
Whether they are better or worse is going to be dependent upon the individual's experience and situation. I will tell you what you shared with me is somewhat shocking, because some of these relationships between different races, different ethnicities, they kind of built in. They come automatically. They just work. When you grow up in close proximity or in the same economic status class or something like that, you really don't have as many issues. But I see that. I think the number of multiracial relationships are probably at its highest point. So in that light, you would say, well, things should not be or must not be that bad. But at the same time, you still have these issues of confrontation among people who just don't understand each other.
Right.
So now we have to go to the root of the problem. It's what are we being taught?
So,
is what's being taught to young black children in their households as it relates to their view of the world.
That is exactly a lot of the things that people will point to, that people get very frustrated because they want to know. And you know what people forget, it's not just black homes, it's all homes.
Oh, it's all homes.
You know,
right. Well, the rest of the statement, right. The rest of the statement is what are white kids being taught in their homes about the rest of the world. So it really just depends on the individual. So you're going to have my son who grew up a block away, his best friend for all of their childhood was a white boy because they grew up a block away and they caught the school bus together and they were the same age. Hello. You know, you know, Dr. King talked about things that we have more in common than we have different. So they rode the same school bus. They went to the same school. They were both in French immersion. They lived in the same neighborhood and they, you know, they just played together. So that was an automatic bondage. That was an automatic relationship. Whereas someone across town who maybe go to a school that is 10 miles away, who live in a different neighborhood among different people, could just have different viewpoints. So our experiences are in fact going to mold who we become. So whether or not things are better or worse, it really depends on the experience.
I must ask you, people often talk about this. Have the views of, let's start with Reverend Jesse Jackson, for example, have the views changed about Reverend Jesse Jackson? Because some people now just see him and Al Sharpton as opportunists who get into situations. But do black people see it that way? Or, and like, I'm asking you to speak for everybody. I don't mean that.
Well, and I was going to say, I was going to say, look, I often tell people, hey, if you're going to give me, if you're going to give me that authority, I need the position. But I will tell you, I'll give you my opinion. I do not view them as opportunists. I do not view them as someone just seeking attention. They are some trailblazers who have come well before, and they have been in this situation for a long time. Now, what has happened is that there have been more people added to the game, if you would. There are additional views that have come about, and some things have in fact changed. But to say that those who were on the front line in the initial stages or the initial phases, like the civil rights movement, to now say because they're still engaged in the game that there are opportunities, I think is inaccurate, or that would be inappropriate by those who opinion that.
Right. But maybe the problem is that some people think their message should change.
Well, some people think my message should change. I know a lot of people, who don't agree with my message, and there it goes.
They really don't. They don't agree with, hey, let's be proactive. Let's figure this out now.
Absolutely. On both among black Americans and white Americans, everybody isn't in 100% agreement with Kenneth Boudreaux. That's the biggest fallacy.
I don't mean that.
Right. In Lafayette is that, this is people approve of some of the things that you do, and they will disapprove of some things that you do, and that's okay. I go out each day knowing that I'm not going to satisfy everybody. Okay. There are some things that I participate in. There are some things I don't participate in. And there are many things that I encourage other people to do, because I don't think one person should take this burden on all by themselves. Right. Someone asked me the other day, do you participate in marches and protests? I say, yes, I have, but I don't do them all. And guess what? Simply because I'm an elected official doesn't mean that I need to do them all. Some things produce better results when the officials stay the hell out the way. Yeah. When the pastors and preachers stay out the way and let the civilians lead, let the common man and woman lead, sometimes you get better results. Because when an official does it, people think that they're looking for media time. People think that they are just trying to control scenarios. So sometimes we got to learn to back off, get out of the way, and let other people do it. So, but we do play a role. But I tell people at the end of the day, though, if it's a local issue, I got the vote. So you do the work, you do some things, you push that envelope, but at the end of the day, there's going to only be certain people who are going to vote on issues. True. So that's why you elected officials have a part, but they don't have to be the whole. Your pastors could mobilize people, get them moving, get them activated. They play a part, but they don't have to be the whole. Everybody needs to play their part.
Lafayette City Parish Councilman Kenneth Boudreaux is our guest. He will stay with us until the top of the hour. We do have to pay some bills because we're dirty capitalists.
Yeah.
It's just a 1-minute spot block, and then we'll take your calls. 232-1542. You can join our conversation at 232-1542. 7:35 at KPEL, continuing the conversation with Kenneth Boudreaux, Lafayette City Parish Councilman. During my time, both of my girls were born in Atlanta, and we lived there. Great, diverse community. Yeah. It was, people I worked with, everything from executives, you just didn't see color. It's
very progressive, very progressive. Denver. Austin, the list goes on and on. I've seen them, and actually I've heard Lafayette say we want to become that. And right here on this program, we've had conversation where we say things that we want, but we never are willing to do what it's going to take to get there. But Atlanta, my son is going to be going to Morehouse College.
Okay, great.
So I'm looking forward to that. Spent a lot of time in Atlanta, and it's going to be great. I'm glad that he'll be in that city.
I like to tell people a story. When my child was first born, the first trip to the park we ever took. Okay, now it's Piedmont Park. It's massive. Yeah. You don't really know what's going on. There's always people there that we walked up, and it was the middle of Atlanta Pride. Yeah. And and people are coming up like, thank you for bringing your daughter. It says so much about your support. Right. And we were like, we support you, but we had no idea this was happening.
In the park today.
And it was sort of the same thing. The daycare where my kids went to, her teacher, the first daycare my daughter ever went to was a black woman, Miss Beverly. And when I tell you, we would go to Kroger there, because that's what you got. If there was a nice black woman in line behind us at the grocery store, like, she wanted to go to her instead of us. And and I think back, sometimes I think we just kind of need to step it back in our head to the mind of a child, not even knowing the difference or caring.
And take down the walls.
There's someone who loves me when I'm not with you. That's who I, want to be with. Right.
But the key is the park you was visiting. It was the daycare your child went to. Yep. It was the store that you shopped in. Now we have erected walls. We move out to the furthest points of our parish. We build exclusive neighborhoods. We set them at $1 amount where, see, this is a lot about economics. In the race issue, we talked about that, and I know we were supposed to follow up, and maybe this is the follow-up.
And we will,
the race issue is not black and white. It's education. It's economics. It's jobs. It's housing. Okay. That's where the race issue is truly defined, because your good relationship was built on what you lived around them. You went to school with them. You went to the parks with them. You played with them. Bad race relationships is built around separation. This is my park. This is yours. These are our neighborhoods. These are yours. These are the type of jobs we get. These are the type of jobs you could have. And until we tear those walls down, our radio, this conversation is so good this morning is because of the three individuals' openness and willingness to another viewpoint. If I came in just was talking about this and you was talking about that, we wouldn't have a good show.
And we would never move anywhere. There'd be no progress.
Exactly.
Okay, 232-1542, 232-1542. If you wish to call in with a question, give your perspective, etc. We'd like to know what you're thinking this morning. All right, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I have a question for the councilman.
Yes.
do you think that the federal government is participating in racial division with a Supreme Court that rules that it's okay to discriminate based on race for college admissions? Justice Department that refuses to prosecute people of color, and current Attorney General who is more concerned about not putting down protesters than Dallas shooting itself. Thank you.
Okay, that was a lot in one. Let's try to stick to one.
Yeah,
topic.
well, I tell you, this is what I'll say about the federal government. Has the federal government played a part in possibly contributing to the negative race relations in our country? I would say yes. There are some things that I think the federal government has done or have not done that has made contributions to that issue. Let's keep it local. There are times when federal intervention is necessary because sometimes you're just not going to be able to move the line locally. You're not going to get that understanding because of those things that we spoke about.
Or you fear that you're not going to be able to get it locally.
Right. So you have to get some intervention, and sometimes they will remain hands off for whatever reason that they have. Then sometimes it's the administration of programs. It's how we approach maybe our social programs or our services that maybe if they were done differently, it would not contribute. As far as the Supreme Court is concerned, they're like any court although they're the highest court, they're like any court. Sometimes they're going to get it right. Sometimes they're going to get it wrong. Sometimes they're going to favor my position or sometimes they may favor your position. But something that has been very eye-catching to me lately was a housing Supreme Court ruling where the use of low-income tax credits, for instance, and how they have been divvied out. When you have housing development in most cities, all of the low-income tax credits are being put into one area. Okay. Whereas they were supposed to be utilized to allow impoverished people to afford a great education. So of course I went to the greatest high school in Lafayette Northside. You went to the second greatest, which was
wow, it was going to come out somewhere.
Eventually, come on, Bernie. So if you really thought that yours was really, really greater than mine, though, my parents, who was a warehouse supervisor at Southern Supermarket Services and a clerk, a hospital clerk on an emergency room floor, if my parents wanted to go and build a home near your home so I could go to what you thought was a better school, then I should be able to use low-income tax credits. They were not designed to dump everybody who's impoverished in one area. So the Supreme Court ruled on that and said that was unconstitutional, and hopefully that will correct some housing issues throughout the country. So does the federal government play a part? Hell yeah. The federal government, the state government, the local government, and every individual who votes and doesn't vote play a part. So people who don't vote play a part. There's a part to play for everybody.
Nothing frustrates me more than people who don't vote.
I'll tell you about that housing credit. Like you said, putting everyone kind of in one place. There was this high-rise that they built downtown Atlanta called the Atlantic. You'll know all about this area eventually, going back and forth. It was this beautiful tower. It was great. Every place in there, you couldn't buy a condo for less than probably $250. I mean, it's a nice place. Well, in order to get some of those credits, they had 5 floors in the middle that were designated, low income. Well, so that's a bad use of, because now you're still separating on separate floors. It's not the integration it was supposed to be.
Exactly. No, it was supposed to be blended. It was supposed to be next door,
so it is
not up and down.
Just help the developer not pay the tax rate they should have because they had these units.